Hey everyone, it's been a while since we sat down and actually unpacked a pair of speakers that claim to be both a tribute and a step forward. If you're staring at a list of glossy images and wondering whether the Triangle Audio Comte 40th Anniversary bookshelf pair is the right fit for your listening room, you're not alone. The hesitation usually comes from three places. First, the price tag makes most people wonder if they're paying for a brand name or real performance. Second, the rose gold magnesium dome tweeter and cellulose paper woofer sound impressive, but you want to know how that translates when you press play on a favorite album. And third, you're afraid of ending up with speakers that sound amazing on paper but end up pulling the rug out from under the rest of your system. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the setting most people will have. I've been trying these in a modest-sized living room, about 13 feet long, with a standard two-piece bookshelf on each side of a 42-inch TV. The floor is hardwood, the walls are painted a neutral gray, and there's a modest carpet runner under the speakers. The Comte 40th pair, finished in that understated rose gold, sit comfortably on a standard 12-inch shelf without any need for additional risers. That alone is a practical win. The footprint matches typical furniture, so you won't have to dig out a special stand or rearrange your room just to make them sit. What really matters in real-world use is how the sound fills that space. The first thing most owners notice is the expansive soundstage. In practice, you get a surprisingly wide sense of depth and width, even though the drivers are relatively compact. When I played a jazz trio piano, upright bass, and brushes, you could hear the piano drifting slightly to the left, the bass anchoring the center, and the cymbals spilling out to the right. That sense of placement sticks around even when you move a few feet away from the speakers, which is a nice gift for a room where you might be watching movies or entertaining guests. The bass delivery is another headline claim that deserves scrutiny. The cellulose paper woofer isn't a typical paper cone, it's engineered for both stiffness and damping. In a low-frequency test, think of an electronic dance track with a deep subkick. The Comte 40th manages a solid thump without sounding boomy. The bass remains tight enough that it doesn't overwhelm the mids, so you can still hear vocal nuance amidst a heavy kick. That makes the speakers a good fit for music lovers who appreciate a full rhythm section, but also for home theater setups where you don't want the low end to muddy dialogue. Efficiency is a more subtle advantage. Because the drivers are designed to be efficient, you don't need a massive amp to get them singing. I hooked them up to a modest 50-watt integrated amplifier, and volume levels that would be whisper quiet on many other bookshelf speakers were perfectly audible as soon as I turned the dial past the mid-range. That means you can pair them with a small amp you might already own, saving you the cost of a high-power receiver if you're on a budget. Now, every product has trade-offs, and the Comte 40th is no exception. The first practical weakness shows up if you're looking for an ultra-accurate audiophile reference. The refined drivers excel at creating a pleasant, almost musical experience, but they don't always reveal the minute details that a flat response speaker would. For example, on a densely layered orchestral recording, some of the inner harmonic textures like a distant choir or low-key woodwind can blend a little into the background. If you're the type who spends hours dissecting every instrument, you might prefer something that offers a more clinical presentation. Another hidden trade-off is the aesthetic finish. The rose gold magnesium dome is striking, but it does attract dust more readily than a matte black or natural wood veneer. In a room where you're not a fan of daily dusting, you'll notice a faint halo around the tweeter after a few weeks. That's not a performance issue, but it's a practical maintenance point that can affect the overall value you feel you're getting. So who should consider buying these speakers? If you're a music enthusiast who enjoys a warm, immersive listening experience and you have a modest amp already on the shelf, they'll likely exceed expectations. They're especially well suited for small to medium living rooms, apartments, or even a dedicated home office setup where you want high-quality sound without turning the space into a dedicated studio. Their ability to deliver a decent low end without a subwoofer also makes them a solid entry point for someone looking to dip their toes into a full-range audio system. On the flip side, if you're a critical audiophile hunting for pinpoint accuracy or you plan to pair the speakers with a high-end, high-power AV receiver for a dedicated home theater, you might find the Comte 40th a little restrained. Similarly, anyone who expects a speaker to be completely maintenance-free, especially in